Mostly I give softballs to our audience, but I feel like you can deal with you can deal with a hard ball. No pun intended. Um, Athletes get hurt, right? This
Absolutely.
is a difficult part of the journey, but there's also a silver lining here. Tell us more about your perspective about injuries.
I think with injuries, it really gives you a chance to develop skills that you never believed you had. So, when I fractured my hip, I had to change up everything, my approach to everything. I couldn't really do cross country or track after that. So, it helped me, besides just physical therapy, it helped me really focus on flexibility. And I felt like I could take that to other sports. And I was always big on agility and strength, but flexibility plays such a huge aspect into agility. And I just felt like that injuries always kind of helped me understand, wow, I can't use this part of my body. I didn't realize how vital that actually is to this sport or to my everyday life. I mean, filling a cup of water with a broken shoulder, it's not fun. And I mean, I need water to stay healthy and alive. So I got an appreciation for the fact that my body is really important, even though I don't treat it like it is all the time. So
I think that's so funny how, from a human condition perspective, we don't always appreciate the things that we have until we lose them. Sometimes temporarily, but sometimes permanently, right?
yeah,
That's so
absolutely.
interesting. And when you say agility, is it mental or physical or maybe both?
Oh yeah, so that's a great point. I think when you start off, it feels like it's trying to grasp what you're doing. It feels like a mental agility, but then once you develop those skills enough physically, it becomes muscle memory. So you never really think about it. So I feel like it's physical agility, but then once you hurt something, like when I hurt my hamstrings, then it's that mental agility all over again. It's just the fear of, can I do this again? And then trying to get back into it is just, it can be a nightmare because you second guess yourself and you question, oh, can I do any of this? So it's building up everything again.
And, it's not just yourself who have gone through these injuries, your athletes get hurt.
Absolutely. Well, I think with youth, the danger of it is you feel unstoppable no matter what, but that's not how the human body works. And well, I shouldn't say unstoppable. You feel invincible. And growing up as a Jackie Chan fan, like I proved he wasn't invincible, but he was unstoppable. He would take the shots and he would keep moving and he would find a way to persevere. And I think that physical endurance is just so important. So when I see a kid injured, I just try to, a kid or I mean an adult. I mean when I coach adults especially, I feel like they have a better grasp of it. But I try to slow them down, take it step by step, because when you get injured, sometimes that adrenaline is so high, you don't even feel it and you just want to continue playing. And I think it's just so important to not stop cold turkey, but slow down. And if you slow down, you're still moving, and that's really what's most important.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the reasons you mentioned Jackie Chan as a side note, the thing when people say Jackie Chan, immediately the thing that I think about is how he punches somebody, and then the next thing is like he's like, "Oh, my hand hurts," and that, I mean, that sense of humor really and humanity in, no, I'm not invulnerable. Tell us about what that looks like as a youth coach. Kind of what's your day to day look like, and let's talk about competitions as well and events.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as a youth coach, I mean, you really have to make it so engaging for the kids. So it feels like your day, you're always adapting your own day. So you never make a set schedule for yourself because kids can lose interest in any sport very quickly. And you just want to remind them that they have so many physical skills that they can offer and that they can also develop. And we try to bring it in those games. So it's a lot of introductions into new games that they've never heard of, even new games that maybe I heard of a week ago. And that's what I like about coaching too. I mean, it makes you a better athlete because you have to understand these games well enough to teach them to kids. And speaking to kids, as a group, I try to teach them it's so important to work as a team, but I want them to know that there's a focus on them individually. So I think with being a youth coach, it's just trying to factor in not just everyone's needs, but everyone's desires, because you're playing sports because you want to, not just because you need
Right,
to. And it's
right.
very important.
What does
So
that look like? How do you balance the teamwork and individualism?
I think to bring the balance to it is just to help the kids realize that, you know, they're complementing each other. So that's the individual aspect. It's like they're not countering each other, and it's like this accomplishment is for the team. It's not just for you. So let's drive it home. Let's work together. I think that's really what's most important to me, because I want these kids to feel like one student offers something different from the other student. It's so important to have that individual style to any sport you play. I mean, I think about the athletes I love. They're much different. They might have different struggles. They might have different strengths. I mean, my oldest brother, he's very flashy with hockey. My younger brother, he's more about the defensive end. But when they play together, I mean, it's like they're unstoppable. I feel like I'm watching Pavel Datsuk and and Phil Kessel. So I just think it's really important to remind the kids that don't get too caught up in yourself, because it's
Mhm.
so important to focus on your team, because your team's going to be looking out for you when you feel down.
Right,
So
right. And talking about feeling down, kids are real people, as us all, and have real
absolutely.
lives. And sometimes things aren't the best. When real life spills into sports, what does that look like, and how do you support the team or the individuals?
Sports kind of epitomize just the difficulty of life, and I'm grateful that right now with coaching, the Olympics are going on, because I feel like that's a showcase of just how difficult life can be, and what they endure. And I feel like it's just so easy to get discouraged. But I think when you feel like you're losing in life, it's so hard to focus on your sport, even though that's where you want to be most, because it's your safe
Right,
haven.
right.
If you lose a step, it doesn't mean that you're done for it. It doesn't mean that you can't bounce back. You can't roll with the punches. So I think that I try to offer that insight to the kids, to adults that I coach, and I feel like more often than not, I see it with adults that I have coached before. It's just you just feel like you've kind of reached rock bottom, and the
Mm,
sport can no longer do it for you, just because your life is in a very unpredictably confusing time. And I think it's just, we all slow down in the sports we love, but then we can pick up, we can increase. And I think it's just reminding yourself that you still have it. Beyond just the drive, it's like you've dedicated so much time. There's the skills will always be there. That muscle memory will always be there. And
Have you,
sometimes you just need a clear mind.
have you seen kind of this additional aspect of her life, right? Sports. Have you seen that actually help them get through difficult times?
I've had friends that I've worked with where it's like if they have addiction issues, or it's just they're going through depression, it's be having that camaraderie. It's that's what's so special about camaraderie. I mean, it's friendship, but it's a connection on a deeper level, where those people will always understand what you're going through. And your struggles in the sport, you feel heard without even having to say a word to those people who are on your team in that sport, because they suffer the same struggles, and you overcome them together. I was facing debt issues, and it was I could see with my own life that just signing up for jiu-jitsu and taking on that challenge just really, it helped me face a lot of fears and insecurities, because I mean, with my debt, I felt like it was a constant struggle, and I felt like I couldn't really face any part of my life. I mean, everything kind of felt terrifying, and I felt like being in these situations where you're physically and mentally tested. And I mean, it's a sport that can be expensive, but really all you need is just another training partner. You don't need a ball, you don't need a net, you don't need the gi that looks like a pajama suit. I mean, really, you can train with whatever you need. And I think that helped me out so much, because it just felt like, oh, I could apply this to anything. And I feel like I can overcome anything now. And losing, you constantly lose when you start in that sport, and it's just such a great, great learning curve. At least I believe so. I mean, just constantly losing, but dealing with even more so a constant encouragement from everyone you train with. It keeps you going, keeps you so motivated.
I see children that lose their shit when they quote unquote fail. Um, but with That's not what happens when we see these martial artists kind of go through that process. You're losing all the time. You can't lose your shit. And in
Yeah,
fact, I would argue you learn something more.
I just feel like it's just there's just such a great level of calmness where it's like the calmness is it brings such a confidence with no arrogance, and I love seeing that. I mean I feel like when you lose to that degree, you don't feel like you're losing. It's just on a physical level where you're being tested, but you don't feel like you're being broken. And I think it's just so important to feel it because mentally you just always feel like you're overcoming. And I feel like with children, it's a little more personal. I've noticed. I mean, I was coaching jiu-jitsu, and I mean, if they lose to an adult, it's not the end of the world. If they lose to someone their own age, it's we're signing a treaty for World War III or something. But I mean, it's just I feel like on an adult level, it's there's just so much that the adults get out of it. I mean, I've lost to men much older than me, and it's just that inspires me because I feel like all the all the people I look up to, all the celebrities I look up to, at least in the sports and acting world, they're they're the old men. It's kind of like the fear the old men in a world where men die young. And I mean, even the fictional characters like Indiana Jones and Batman, they're breaking everything, but they're kicking butt everywhere they go. And it's just being a young guy losing to the older guys. It's so helpful. It's so inspiring, and I think just the wisdom you get from the older gents, it's something so special. And they've been through it, and they walk you through it, and they understand where you are because they were once in that position. And it's just I love that with martial arts. I've never really felt that with any other sport.
Is there, when you're on the mattress, right, Randori, is there a is it just everybody on their own trying to win, or is there a sense of learning together or almost mentorship on the mat? What does that look like?
It's nice to put yourself in a tough spot right off the bat, and I
Mm.
love that with jiu-jitsu. And I think that's just we can get that in our gym so easily. You can just constantly put yourself in tough positions on purpose. My instructor does that to me all the time. He'll give me so many advantages, and he's developing his game, and he's
Mhm.
reminding me why he's much better than I am because I always think I'm going to win from those spots, but then I lose very quickly. And it's the intense rolls are so important too. And I think it's just so important to go through all those sort of modes every class you're there if you can. And I mean sometimes if your body's hurt, that's what's so helpful about the flow rollers. You can relax a bit, and then if you're feeling on top of your game, you can really test yourself because you'll have the intense rolls. And I try to get all of that in with every class, and it's just such a rewarding experience.
I love this concept that you're talking about of kind of learning self-control and a sense of calmness through martial arts, which might be counterintuitive to some people because, hold on, this is a form of violence, one might argue,
Mm-hmm.
incorrectly, I would say. But through it, you gain mastery and self-control. Who do we say are the most dangerous people on the mat?
I used to be one of those dangerous white belts.
So it's funny because that's, that saying, which is I've noticed everybody has it almost, but it's exactly that, right? It's the people who have the least amount of self-control that, I've gone into randori or fights, so to speak, with black belts or brown belts. I've never been afraid. I've never been afraid that I'm going to get hurt, but going into a white belt, I'm on my guard. I'm like, this is basically, I might as well be, on the street with a gangster. Like this is real. So that sense of self control actually is incredibly important. And And I would argue that you can see that transition, right? You start off as a white belt, and as you progress, you gain more and more self-control. And I would even argue that that self-control transitions into real life. And I've seen that happen with my son throughout his journey, which I think is quite incredible.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I wanna shift to a little bit of a topic. When you look at your students and yourself, what's the proudest moment that you've seen your students overcome in their athlete journey?
When their egos just diminish rapidly, I love seeing that because I love when kids are confident. I do love it. I just love when a kid kind of starts to find their place and they build true confidence, not the insecurity that comes with cockiness. And I think it's just destroying those egos. It's just something so amazing to see. And then I feel like for the more humble students, which fortunately I've many humble students, it's just seeing them fall and get right back up. I mean, I don't know anyone who likes falling. I don't even think stunt doubles like falling, and that's what they get paid for. So I love seeing that perseverance. It's just so special to see, and at such a young age. And I really try to encourage them that it's okay to be hurt, but
Right.
they're tough, and I know that they can get back up. So
There is a difference between true confidence that often comes with humility, and I don't know if to call it fake confidence, which is actually maybe overconfidence, which actually sometimes is a symptom of lack of skill and lack of ability.
we see it so often, and again at the adult level, especially in a martial art, jiu-jitsu, it's so common. I mean, we will see young men walk onto the mats feeling unstoppable, and then just it feels like they're full of rage, ready to hurt someone, and then they get stopped with ease. And I think it's just such it's an invaluable lesson for them, and just that calmness. It really, to me, the calmness, it's almost like something you see, an expression on their face. It's just that they have that experience. They've endured. They still endure, and they not only are they used to it, but they brace themselves for it. It's just amazing to me. So I agree with you.
I remember my many years ago, my one of my first white belt experiences, and we were practicing basically grips and throws. And yeah, I was that white belt, and I came into it, 0 to 60 and 3.5, and I landed on my back like
Oh,
it threw the air out of your chest, right? You
yeah.
know that, and I was sure this guy was going down. I didn't think it was going to be me. And when I caught my breath and he gave me my hand, helped me get up, he said, "Hold me like this," and then he said, "Put your leg over there and try again." And instead of it becoming ego, it became this like, oh, this almost mentorable, teachable moment where he showed me what to do. And, this kind of ego of, oh, you can't, like, you lost, as opposed to, no, here's how you get better. That was such a pivotal point for me because it taught me how you can be in this environment of so-called, very energetic conflict, right? Almost violence, but
Mhm.
you have a very soft and kind mentoring relationship where both sides are improving the other. And that was such a mindset change for me. So I kind of changed something in how I saw the world at that moment.
I love
Now,
that.
you coach, you do martial arts, but you also do marketing, and you
Yeah.
actually
When when I started with the coaching background, my boss learned more and more about my interests and my background in school because as I spoke with you, being a huge fan of Jackie Chan, you I mean, it just drove me to sports. It drove me to, mastering the fall. And film is an art, just like sports are an art. But I mean, film, it's that visual art that always drove me. And I felt like if I could combine sports and that visual art, I'd be complete. So I think with that marketing background, I went to school for communication with video production and another background, a minor in graphic design. So I think just trying to really, not put all my eggs in one basket, but trying to be ambitious about everything that really sparked my interest. I feel like that's so important to me. I never wanted to be one of those individuals who's just so drawn towards one thing because I feel like, when that starts to calm down or slow down or you lose interest, you feel lost because you've never searched for all your other loves. So I think that marketing background, I love being able to do the marketing. I mean, I say that until I have a tight deadline, then it's not so fun, and then I kind of wish I could get back to the sports. So, but
I
it's
would
just
be
such a
doing
fun.
anything else but this right now. We had that when I was studying many, 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 many years ago, and you're crunching for a test. You're like, I will wash the floors right now. I don't want to do that. Look, I think it's kind of inspiring that you have found two passions to chase. And I used to tell people when I was young and stupid that, oh, you need to know what your plan is. Like you have to have a plan. You need to know what you're doing. But as I matured, I figured out that that isn't necessarily true. That there are so many amazing people that didn't have a plan and had this incredibly amazing journey. So I've learned that there's many ways to reach whatever are the goals that you're searching for in life. Let me
Absolutely.
ask you one last question. For both athletes and young adults and children, based on everything that you've learned and done throughout your career, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to our audience?
Never underestimate people. I feel like it's so important with sports. And I mean, even I just feel like in life, I always hear the term competitive. I don't like how it's abused now. It's like, oh, it's competitive in the workforce. It's competitive to get this job. It's competitive to get on this team.
Right?
It's it's a team. You're there to work together. It shouldn't be competitive. You're working together. You're collaborating with each other. So I feel like we're trying to establish camaraderie, not competition. And I know competition's important and it can be a driving force for anyone, but that's just how you establish this unhealthy mindset of winning. And I feel like it's just, don't underestimate people. I mean, on a personal level, when I mean, all throughout middle school and high school, I was a pretty thin kid. I mean, people thought I was fast, but they didn't think I had any strength. They didn't really believe that I could offer much to sports. And I feel like all they were doing was giving me an advantage because they got so in their heads that I couldn't accomplish anything that it makes you a sleeper because once you make one basic play, one simple play, it messes with everyone's mindset. They're like, whoa, he can actually catch. He has thumbs. I mean, they just question everything. So you're just, you're ruining your self while if you're underestimating people, and you're also kind of you're completely insulting them. And I think it's just so important with sports and with life, encourage people. I'm not going to tell someone who's never ran, oh, you want to do a marathon? Yeah, do it tomorrow, you'll have a lot of fun. I mean, obviously you have to work towards it, but if you want to do that, I think it's so important to just encourage people. The human body is amazing, and the mind is even more incredible, and what people can overcome, what people can achieve. I think it's just so important to remind that, and we're all starting somewhere. So don't factor in your age. Just factor in your don't don't over push your durability. Don't overexert yourself. I really think that's the big issue. I mean, with age, you might slow down, but that's not always the case. Terrell Owens is still schooling 17-year-olds on routes, and I mean he's 50. So it's just important to remember to not overexert yourself. If you're tired, take care of yourself, but believe that you can do it, and bring that sort of belief to everyone else. It's so important. Never underestimate anyone. Don't view them as competition. That would be my advice.
Thank you so much. What an absolute delight.
Oh,
And
hey, thank you so much.
the subtext is that I think a lot of the advice and the journeys that you've spoke about today, they're applicable to everyone, not just to athletes. And I think everybody listen can kind of hear that and can speak to them in their own journey.
You know how
Wonderful.
to flatter me, so thank you.
What a pleasure.